the TriStar AMR system. So that's going to be milk testing with Agritech, through Holstein Association. We're a Holstein complete herd, registering, genomic testing, all the jazz. But what's really cool with that is I always think there's three things that dairy farmers focus on when somebody walks in the door. Fortunately for dairy farmers, I guess people come to us, but in some ways. So the first thing a farmer's going to ask you is cost. What is that cost? How much is it going to cost? And two, is it efficient? Do I need it? Does it work for me? And three, how easy is it? Is this really going to work? And I feel like the TriStar AMR system fits out those three things because one, it's easy. Two, I can't be any more accurate. And we've learned this today with everyone. With data, there can be some I shouldn't say negatives, but you have to be accurate when it comes to data. Data is useless if it's not accurate. So with the TriStar AMR system, we're taking a seven-day weekly average from our cows, that's going into this test. Her fat, protein, also included in that. So I'm obviously a big fan of the TriStar AMR system, and the cost is about the cost of one test, through DHIA or whoever else. So successes of doing this. So robots obviously limit employees. Heat detection is much better using collars, and fine attention cows via rumination drop. Let's say your milk temperature is a little high, conductivity in a certain quarter. We kind of get this as a farmer. It's kind of sometimes in a bad way. So right when I walk in the barn, I go to the attention list. What cows do I have to work with today? Whether it be breeding, whether it be low rumination, whether it be conductivity, we kind of have this unfortunate situation of having to deal with those attention cows. And I've said this before, don't forget to look at your peak cows, your high cows, your cows that are doing really well, because not only is that going to confirm that, hey, maybe our dry cow ration is doing well, hey, our transition group is doing really well. So don't forget to look at those, those fun things, I think, on a dairy farm. So genomic testing to utilize in light, which obviously and then utilizes your breeding program. And the TriStar AMR system, which I talked about a little bit already, we get herd data from that. So like a DHIA data you would receive back tells you, how efficient or inefficient in certain parts your dairy is being cow-wise. And Egg Manager, that's just the financial system that I use or we use at the farm. And it helps create reports, makes it easy for bankers. Hey, what's your quarterly ROI, your quarterly profit loss? And it's very easy to just bring those reports up for them just so obviously it saves a lot of time. And wish list. We talked a lot about this. Today it's companies and systems communicate with one another. Ear tags, just for example. It's a very fun thing. I feel like as dairy farmers, we are in the driver's seat right now. Driver's seat as in, we're just kind of sitting there and we're just, I really like your systems this, or I don't like your systems that, or I really like the way you design your platform. It's very easy to use. I really like this about that. It's very easy for us just to kind of sit. But one thing we cannot do is not give our feedback. We have to give our feedback to these companies, let them know what we're looking for and what we want, because without our input, they are going to keep trying to improve. And maybe sometimes they'll maybe improve in a wrong way or in a way that we didn't really want them to, or it's situations like that. So I think one thing that we need to do is I get a lot of surveys online, whether it be through email, whether it be through different companies. Take those surveys. It's really important to let these people know what's important to them. Send emails to managers, do things like that, because they need to know what we're looking for. So that's really, really important. So classification results, info, going into the mating program. Easily interchanged sires being used. So I think the Red Book Plus online is doing a good job at saying, hey, I'm using these 15 sires right now, and which one's going to mate best for this animal. It'd be really great to get these things in one place. Right now, it's kind of a joke. Somebody asked, so how do you solve your problems on the farm? I open about 55 tabs to solve a lot of problems. It's every tab for every genetic company, or for all the bulls I'm using, with the Enlight program, with the Fast Start or Red Book Plus program. There is a bunch of programs that we have open. It'd be great if we could get that in a somewhat of a location, but it'd be very, very hard. So I understand that. show and compare a female's genotype with her phenotype. I think that stuff is really, really cool. You know, we classify in the farm as well. So it's really interesting to see, you know, hey, this animal is, you know, let's say number 5 in the breed for type. You know, tell me why. You know, is it her size? Is her frame really, really that beautiful? Is her foreorder attachment really, really that great? And now we look at her phenotype. You know, if she's really that good, then maybe she should be a 50 on foreorder attachment or a 50 on, you know, rear order height. It's cool to kind of look at those two breakdowns and kind of compare them, especially for breeding purposes. Calculation to show the best cow, because we have the data, and the kind of a luxury with having the robots is that, you know, we get daily numbers, and they fluctuate throughout the day, you know, depending on how much milk she gave. And, you know, milk speed is something that I'm looking at, you know, a lot, obviously with components too. But me and Jeff Bewley have kind of started, I shouldn't say started anything, but we formulated kind of an equation to kind of look at who's your best cow in the herd. And Jeff, you know, the mastermind who spoke this morning, he was obviously a huge part of this. I supplied the data and kind of I'm kind of like, I like ideas, you know, I'm kind of like an idea guy. I'm not an engineer, can't figure these things out, but I have ideas. And Jeff did a really, really, really great job at formulating, you know, this, you know, what cow is your most efficient cow on the farm? You know, is it the one that's going through the robot 4 times that's giving 150 pounds of milk? Honestly, I thought it was going to be that cow, but it's not. You know, it's that cow who's, you know, maybe getting 2 to 3 times a day, giving, you know, 125 pounds of milk, who's only in the box for maybe 4 minutes. And, you know, she doesn't have a bunch of refusals, so when she goes to the robot, she's going to milk. She's not wasting those 10, 15 seconds in that sense. So I think, and we have the data, and Jeff can, if anybody asks any questions, ask Jeff about it. It's a really cool tool, you know, that we actually formulated which cow was our best cow on the farm. It's very interesting. And make is a terrible word. I thought about this today. Make is a terrible word. But I would love for encouraging, convincing the CDCB to take robot herd milk and health info data to is it a discount for genomic testing? You know, is it whatever? But I think it's really important that they take our health data and not only utilize it, but you know the payback to us of because we are a member and because we're giving our data away, we do get a discount, a premium for other products that we use.
Thanks, Mac. Our next farm to present is Bob Webb with Summit Farms.
Good afternoon. Been in this business for quite some time. My wife Peggy and I started managing our dairy. I'm a 3rd generation purebred breeder and very active in the Holstein Association. Believe in that part of it and utilize a lot of the programs. We classify 3 to 4 times a year. We production test and but our data, the data information, we've had the luxury of having at least, we've had 3 activity systems. We started with a company called Dairy Master many years ago, switched to SCR, and now are with Cow Manager. The interesting thing is, and I think if I did anything right, is I hired really good people to help manage and consult our operation. My manager at our farm has been with us 30 years. She's an integral part of what we do. In her office, she sits with 4 screens in front of her. Looks like she's doing an operation in a theater, surgery theater. But we use the Cow Manager. Like I said, we genomic test every animal on the farm. We do quite a bit of embryo work. So the data gets compiled, and she's really good at integrating this information, as you can see on the screen, some of the programs that we have used. I'd be remiss that I started out as a dairyman. My wife and I were milking cows most of the nights back in the late 70s. And I've transitioned to not only managing people, but just managing the business. And it's important to have quality consultants that you work with. I think technology that we have is as important to have the people that are servicing it and working with you as the systems are. And we're really fortunate we have a nutritionist who is is deeply invested in some of this information. And it's been a real pleasure to assemble this information and utilize it on the operation. So I guess I think what I can view from what we've done with data is that data is probably one of the most important things we generate. As said earlier today, what's your data worth? It's worth a lot to me. I don't know how much it's worth to you, but I think there's an obligation, and I feel this way as a purebred breeder, to share the important data with the industry to help move it along. I'll give a plug for the Holstein Association. That is a data-driven business, and I think it's important that we recognize that as we're here this week, and also to protect that data. And I think it's important when it leaves your farm, whose hands it's in and how they're handling it. So I guess I think I can ditto a lot of things that Mack just brought out that we utilize and do, and I think it's an important part of the future. But I'm going to use a word that I think is very important. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think as an industry, we're really, as consumers, we're really spoiled that we look at our smartphone, and I realize they're a whole lot smarter than I am, that little tool in your pocket, we have the ability to get an app for it tomorrow. In this industry, we got to back up and be a little more cautious because we can't get that turnover in data that the information sources that we want. So it's happening. It's happening at the pace of, like I said, a cell phone or a computer. Those are almost happening daily or by the hour. So like I said, cautious optimism is the phrase I like to use a lot when I refer to data.
All right, our next farm to present is Chris Szydel from Pagel's Ponderosa.
Well, hello, my name is Chris Szydel. I'm the herd manager for Pagel's Ponderosa Dairy. We're milking cows up in northeast Wisconsin. I've been with the dairy for around 27 years. Started working for John when there was about 300 cows, and we moved up to about 6,500 cows milking. I oversee the people on the dairy that are taking care of the animals and oversee the animals for the dairy. So here's a picture of our new facility. It's built about back in 2008. We have 3 different milking parlors. We have a 72 stall rotary. We're milking about 4,200 cows through there. And then we have a double 20 parallel on the site. And then we just acquired a satellite farm about 5 miles down the road, and that's a double 18 parallel. And we move our pregnant cows to the satellite farm and milk those cows there. And then we're using the technology, the SCR system on the collars, or we have the collars on the cows. That data gets fed back to the home farm, and then we can monitor the cows on the different facilities. We're milking 3 times a day. We are a crossbred herd, and we've been doing that since about 2007. We're trying to build a little smaller cow, and we're in a heavy cheese market by us, so trying to get components, high protein, high butter fat. And we do have a small cheese plant on site where the truck is there on the left-hand side. We do make cheese 4 days a week, string cheese, cheese curds, and some mozzarella cheese, and also some block cheese. And then the family owns a retail store, Ron's Cheese, in Luxembourg, which is about 5 miles from the dairy. And we're selling cheese in all the festival foods in Wisconsin for the string cheese and the cheese curds. So for the data and the technology that we're using on the farm, we work quite a bit with Valley software. We're using their dairy comp program. We got pocket cow cards and the tablets that we're using throughout the facilities. We have a Parlor Boss system. So the Parlor Boss is a platform that we have on the rotary. So we're able to have the computer system, Dairy Comp, let us know what to do with the cows on the wheel. And whether it be vaccinations, hormone shots, cows that we want to separate, all that goes through the Parlor Boss system. We're also utilizing the FeedWatch system also from Valley Software. We started with Allflex about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, with the activity monitoring systems. We started out with some used collars, and we tried it on some fresh cows, and the program seemed to work really well for us. And we incorporated the collars and the activity monitoring on all the cows on the dairy, and we're using the system on multiple sites. So with the satellite farm being 5 miles down the road, that data comes back, and we're able to just have milking technicians on that dairy, and our herd management team will go down the road and take care of the cows that need attention with the system. We're working with VES and Artex on the Dairy Boss system, and this is pretty exciting for us. So cow comfort and cow cooling is very important, and also in wintertime, we want to make sure that the barns are properly ventilated. They're not too cold, they're not too warm. And we have 9 barns on 2 different sites. It takes a lot to be able to turn the fans on and off. By having the new Dairy Boss system, everything is automated, and that goes to a dashboard in my office, so we can program everything. It sends alerts out on the phone, lets us know that if there is fans that aren't working, or if there's an alerts on high temperatures in the barns, that all that data comes back to us on our cell phones, which is pretty neat. So we want to be able to monitor the environments on the cows, and also what can we do different. So if our barns are maxed out and the cows are still feeling heat stress, is there something different that we can do or add additional cooling for the cows? With Bomatic, we have Bomatic in 2 of our parlors, and we're getting the milk weights. We have the meters in there. That all gets fed back into Dairy Comp. And so the Allflex system, Valley software, all gets fed into the Dairy Comp system to help us get our reports. We do have a Pulse system. So the Pulse is a injection gun system that we're using. And what that does is it's an air-operated system that we inject either our hormones or vaccinations into the cows. So we're not switching needles on the cows. We worked very aggressively over the last 3 years with Central Star, and we're doing testing on the whole herd. We do put in quite a few embryos. We're putting in about 200, 250 embryos a month into our heifers and into the cows, and we want to make sure that those animals are BLV negative. So we spend a lot of time and do a lot of testing to make sure that the herd is negative. And then if we do have positive animals, we end up culling those animals out of our system just to get a clean herd. We were using Cantus. I know Cantus is in the middle of a transition right now, but the feed monitoring system, we tried it out on our new satellite farm. It seemed to work out really well. So the next step for us is after the transition happens with the companies, we want to put that into our steam up and fresh cows and monitor our close-up animals and fresh cows. We do have parlor camera systems. We do have the cattle care program that we're monitoring the camera systems. It's something new that we just started. It's great technology, and instead of us going through the camera system trying to see what's happening or what's going on, the cattle care program is finding the events that's happening. So it's a snapshot, and we can review the video footage. And if there is an alert that their system has like a 1 through 5, and 1 being a minor incident, 5 being a major incident, it'll actually send a message to our phone saying that something happened that we need to look at. So a lot of cool technology coming out by the dairy, by us, and we're limited on our electricians. Our electricians are busy. We got a full-time electrician on the dairy, plus we hired another company in to work on the fan projects and to work on the different projects, but we're limited by how much wire they can run and how fast we can get the systems implemented. They're doing a great job on trying to get that up and running. With all the programs that we have listed here, Allflex, Dairy Comp, the Dairy Boss system, they're great systems, and we talked about maximizing the systems, and I believe that there's a lot of potential with the different programs that are out there. We're still continuing to work with Allflex on different ways, different reports on how we can manage the cows and how we can better take care of the cows. The system's also helped us on labor efficiencies, so it helps us make sure the cows are taken care of and the cows aren't on lock as long. So the next one, the successes from utilizing the data here. We stopped doing the daily headlocks on the milking herd. We're still using it on the fresh cows, and that's something that I'd like to focus on for this year, is how we can manage our fresh cows without setting the headlocks on them. We talked about the parlor platform, catching the cows. When the cows walk off the wheel, we're catching the ones into a sort pen, and we're breeding those cows and preg checking those cows coming off the rotary. Since we went away from headlocks, we've seen a 5-pound increase in milk production. And at Dairy Dreams, that would be one of our sister dairies. They have a parallel parlor, but they're given the shots in the parlor also in a parallel. And then they got a catch pen outside too with the sort gates, so they can separate the cows to breed. So both dairies stopped setting headlocks on the milking cows, and both dairies seen a 5-pound increase. And then also better cow comfort. It's great walking the barns. Just after the cows got out of the parlor, they're done eating. Lay down rates are great, and the cows are very comfortable out there, so that's great to see. We've also improved our reproduction. We got a 31% preg rate, and we increased that to 34%. We reduced our hormone shots. Before the program, we were using 83% of the cows were getting hormones, and we reduced that down to 40% of the cows are getting hormone shots. Also with the systems, we got a high compliance, making sure that the tasks are complete. Working at Allflex and Dairy Comp, I created a checks and balances list that prints off to make sure that if the cows that show up on the system that need to get bred, the guys need to breed those animals, put them into Dairy Comp, but if they're not in the system, the list will print off for me the next day to show the cows that weren't bred, and then I'll have our breeding team go through that list to see why she wasn't bred. Either she was low on milk production, or she ran out of how many times she was bred, or she had a poor discharge. So it's a good compliance checks and balances system to make sure that we're breeding everybody, also taking care of the cows that need the attention. We've seen a lower percentage of cull cows and dead cows. We reduced our culls and deads by about 16% with the system. We lowered our cull rate down to 30%. We were at a 35% cull rate, and we've seen better labor efficiencies. So the challenges and benefits we've encountered is technology is great when it works. If there's a breakdown with the system, our biggest issue would be the internet system, or something happens with the computer system. And we got people in place to help get us the systems back up and running, because that's what we're using and depending on to be able to take care of the cows and have the compliance that we need. We're also seeing better compliance with the computer systems versus years ago. We had a clipboard, and when the cows were in the wrong pens, it was a lot more challenging to find the cows. With the new computer systems, even if she is in the wrong pen, we know who she is, and we can make sure that she gets the attention that she needs. The newer technology that we're using, it's really user-friendly for our team, and for me that's important. My team that's helping take care of the cows, running the software and the equipment to help take care of the cows, and then getting feedback from our team. So if there is something that's not working for them, the tablet's not working, or there's a report that they want modified, it's important for me to get the feedback from them, so then I can go ahead and talk to the different companies on how we can get that fixed. It's less stress on them, and it's more efficient, so that the guys are really happy with it. It doesn't happen very often, but if the system does break down and we got to get it back up and running, it's like, for us, it's going from the Cadillac back to the horse and buggy. It's a big step backwards, and it takes us a lot more time to be able to take care of the cows. So we really depend on the technology to make sure that the animals are taken care of the best we can. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Our next presenter is Dr. Portia Seckerson, and she's with Blue Horizons Dairy as well as the Northern Valley Livestock Services.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Portia Seckerson. So I have wearing two hats today, a little bit. I am farmer for Blue Horizon Dairy Farm, and then I also own Northern Valley Livestock Services. Both of them are in southeast Minnesota near Rochester. Northern Valley Livestock Services is a 6-doctor practice. I own it with one other doctor, and we took it over about a year ago. Our focus is on dairy production medicine, and we do daily work, herd work, and then we also have a consulting business as well with that. Our dairy farm is a 3-generation farm. We milk 700 cows. We do all of our own crops, and we also have a feedlot operation as well, where we feed out all of our crossbreds and our steers as well. We also self-raise our heifers. We have 10 full-time employees and 4 part-timers during harvesting. So kind of how I got involved with the farm and utilizing technology was about a year and a half ago as we were buying the vet clinic. My business partner and I suffered a horrible loss with my brother dying in a farm accident, and that pretty much moved us to using technology. So pretty much that day when he passed, I was in the parlor milking cows because we didn't have somebody show up to work. I knew my dad wanted to keep farming, so I had to figure out a way to do it. So that week, I made a phone call and put SCR in. I did have some experience with SCR with my job being a veterinarian, so I did not do any ROI calculations or anything like that. It was purely a survival decision at that point, but it has been a great decision, and I would really no negatives about it. With our SCR system, not only from the activity part of it, which a lot of people have talked about already, the big part that helps us a lot is the rumination side of it. So I've also developed treatment protocols just based off of rumination numbers and how many days of milk she is to help our employees troubleshoot problems since I am not always there on the farm. You can do pen monitoring as well with this system. It can help you manage feed bunks. It can help you manage heat abatement. They do have like heavy breathing graphs and those types of things with it. So just like 2 weeks ago, I noticed one of our pens was having much more labored breathing. Our sprinklers got tilted by a skid loader that hit it and nobody said anything. So we were able to get them fixed that day. I use Dairy Comp. These are the 2 biggest things that I use every day when I'm off site as well. Dairy Comp 305, we use cow value for help making culling decisions. We do herd benchmarking and then monthly monitoring reports as well. We also use this heavily within our veterinary practice as well. That's more of the herd benchmarking practices. So we do it on an individual herd basis every month. We make goals for those herds based on what the farmer wants. We also do a herd benching between all of our herds that we service. But we do have meetings with the farm after we do them, and we go over results and stuff like that. We did hear earlier about taking that data carefully. So we do DHIA testing. This helps us on the somatic cell count. We have fresh versus chronic lists, and we also print out culture lists monthly to make sure we're not having any sort of contagious pathogens, and just to help keep everything in check. We also use FeedWatch. That was another system that we put in shortly after the accident. And this has helped with the transition of my dad feeding to training an employee to do it as well. In this way, my dad can still help train and manage our feeders and have a good part within the feeding system, but also do other things on the farm as well. It also really helps streamline ration changes as well with our nutritionist. We do use clarified genomic testing. We mostly do this just recently on the research side of things. We do have a huge straight-legged hawk issue with in our herd, and we also see it with other herds in southeast Minnesota. So Zoetis has taken an interest, thankfully, and we are working with them on the genetic side of it and doing some research with them. On the calf side, we did put a chlorine dioxide pump in that's automatic, and that has really helped with, especially with crypto issues and other scouring issues within our calves, and it pretty much has taken crypto out of the situation. And that is, I think, just a simple pump system that you can put in just working with your milk dealers. Hardly any cost to that as well. We also do a lot of lung ultrasounding within our practice and on our dairy as well. We're working with that data and moving it through the lactation herd as well and seeing how those animals perform. We're just starting to get to that long of data use. So future wish list, which I think has been talked about a lot, is just compiling all the data into a more easy, user-friendly place for farmers to utilize it. I'd like to see more on the economic side of things, which we did hear a little bit about earlier. Then also for these, the biggest thing for the survival is to get the consumers on board. So another big wish list of mine would be to have some of these big companies that are focusing a lot on data use and how do we transfer that to the consumer on the welfare side of things to help make this industry keep going to the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so well, we're going to open for questions now. Again, a reminder that you can use the Whova app to submit a question, and we have one that's been submitted already. So for each of the panelists, what is your one technology that you used, you referenced in the slide here, that is most optimal in your opinion, and if you lost it, you would miss it the most?
Is this on?
Yep.
I would say if we lost the robots, I would be fairly lost for the day. But I guess just to be honest, obviously I'm up here because I obviously enjoy the dairy industry. So and I like the robots. I like I'm able to be around the cows a lot. I think if I lost that, that rumination, the heat detection, that would be really frustrating to me. It's not that we obviously couldn't do it before, but to just make our lives a lot easier that we're not sending me or my dad out to go, let's say, go look at heifers for a half hour to 45 minutes just to see who's in heat, who could be in heat. When we had a tie stall barn, cows would be out for around 2 hours a day, so those were primarily your only times to really find those cows in heat. So when we did move to the robots, get into the barn, I found those things to be humongous assets, on the farm.
Thanks, Mac. Chris?
For us, it would be the dairy comp system, Valley software. Everything that we're doing to help manage the herd and take care of the cows is all set up in a scheduler, and all the tasks are in there. So we depend on that greatly to make sure that the animals are getting the attention that they need on a daily basis.
Kristen, is that that's the cloud version as well, not just if you had to go back to paper, that, like you said, that's Cadillac to
Yep.
to horse and buggy for you?
Yes. With Allflex SCR system, that's a great system. I would put that as second on the list. It does a great job with helping us manage the cows that are in heat. If the system does break, we can go back to tail chalk, but it's a lot more labor intensive, and there's a way to get around that, but it saves us a lot of time, and it does a great job on finding the cows before our team members can find the cows, whether it be a cow that's in heat or a cow that her health index is lower.
Thanks. Bob, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think to start with, the first thing is when the internet goes down, I got a whole bunch of employees standing around looking at each other like, what do I do now? They, the interesting thing my manager brought up is that, systems like Cow Manager that we use, I would say we use it more for health reasons than repo. Excuse me. My manager's comment is that this has taught our herdsmen to be a better herdsman. So I think I would have to throw in the monitoring system, the ear tag monitoring system has to be primary, that when that's not functioning correctly, it's a big deal.
Portia?
My answer would be similar to Chris's. Dairy Comp and SCR would be a close tie, but I definitely need the lists from Dairy Comp to keep everything organized. But I would really be sad if SCR wasn't working as well.
Good deal. One of the questions that we've talked about kind of individually, but I wanted to mention today to the group is each of you kind of has a little bit different perspective on priority for how technology can impact your farm. So out of these categories, automation, compliance or employee engagement, breeding, cow health and milk quality, or tying management to financial performance, how do you prioritize technologies? Which one of those categories maybe is the most, the one you're going to lean on the most when you're making a technology decision? So I'll list those again: automation, compliance, breeding, cow health or milk quality, and tying to financial performance.
I don't even know if this was an option, but my biggest thing is streamlining things for employees to make it easier on employees and just making following a protocol simple. So I think one thing that we put in too was an automated calf one. We have 150 huts, and they were carrying milk out by pails to those huts. So we put in a tank on a gator and then use the milk wand taxi wand. And so we can set that wand at whatever amount we want. If we want a gallon or whatever you want, you set it at that, and then they just push the button and a gallon is delivered. And then you can do that, for your water as well when they bring water out. So we up it in the summertime and lower it in the wintertime and that. So I guess when I'm looking at technology, right now it's whatever streamlines things for employees to make it easier on them.
I'd have to say milk quality, because if I'm not selling milk, I'm not getting a check. And then the rest of the dairy is not going to function. So I think milk quality is a big issue. Not that we have challenges, but from that standpoint, cow health, if you're not, my favorite saying is, if you can't manage one, you can't manage 100, you can't manage 1,000. So individually, I still think a cow matters. And so it's important from a health standpoint that we can locate, identify, and take care of one cow at a time, but in a large group. So, but milk quality still is paramount.
For us, evaluating the different technologies is going to be what the best fit is going to be for the dairy, the return of investment with the new system, and can we tie it in, for example, like Allflex and SCR is tied into Dairy Comp, so we're taking two systems, tying it into one, and working off of that one list or system, and just trying to make things a lot simpler to be able to manage it. Once we start to get too many different platforms, and we got to open up 3 different platforms to look at different information in different areas, it just becomes more complex. And then how often are we going to go into that system? So, and it could be a great system, but we got to make sure that we're taking the time to use that system also, and it's effective.
I would say cow health and milk quality. I guess the way I kind of look at it, being a smaller farm, is we have 250 employees, AKA cows, and if they're not happy, we're not happy. So I think it's really, really important for just cow health, repro, all that stuff that goes along with it, milk quality.
Another question here. This is for Dr. Seckerson. What platform are you using at your practice to benchmark across herds?
So it's one we've developed ourselves. We have just developed it on Excel, and it's been Dr. Jim Bennett, who is one of the vets we bought the practice from, is the one that started it, and then we just keep growing it all the time. So he's been a great asset to that.
For all the panelists here, now that you have the multiple systems in place, in hindsight, is there any that you would have swapped out the order in which you installed them? In other words, maybe it was the fifth one that you put in place, but really, if you did it again, you'd put it in first.
I guess for our situation, I guess when we went with the robots, we kind of did everything all at once. So it was a really big learning curve for myself and the family, because you go with robots, then the SCR comes with it, and we were genomic testing at the time, looking at the Belgioso lab reports as well. Started with Egg Manager, so I kind of lumped everything all at once, and I think it all turned out to be all of them are very, very important. Maybe we should have incorporated one at a time, but I was just a young go-getter kid at the time, so it was just let's just do it all at once. But I think all are important. I think if you take steps into these things, I think it can be a big asset, because obviously you have to check and find or look and see if it finds out, or look to see if it's worth it, or and make sure you have a full grasp on it to utilize the data. Because if you don't utilize the data, then you have maybe a waste of money there. And like I mentioned before, there's nothing kind of more important than accuracy. And so if you can't be accurate with your decisions or with the tools you're using, it's a tough road ahead.
I think I'd back up, and I would say our record-keeping system for the cows, in the late 80s, we had a barn fire and lost our dairy. And we lost records, and they were written in notebooks and everything else. So there was no cloud. Well, there were clouds, but there was no cloud to put data in. And so the fact we didn't have breeding information, we didn't have, it was a loss that it's hard to start over. And now we have the ability to store it, can handle it. So I would have to say the record-keeping system for the dairy is pretty important to start with.
For us, we've been on Dairy Comp for as long as I've been there. So that system, we came a long way with it. I know right now we're limited on items with that system. We're maxed out with items, and I think when they get their new release out, that'll help create some more items, and then it'll help us go to the next level on that. With the Allflex system, that came along at the right time when it was a good opportunity for us, and the way that the technology keeps coming along, we're trying to add it as fast as we can, but then also working with our the dairy team and the electricians just to make sure that as we're adding new technology, it takes a lot to get the systems put in and incorporated and learn the new system. So we're just trying to take it step by step, and we're open to the new changes with the technology coming out, which is great. The team adapts to it well, and but we want to make sure that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves, and we learn one system before we go on to the next system.
And so we also had Dairy Comp for a long time, and then SCR came next, and then FeedWatch, and so on. So I don't think I would have changed the order of it. The only other thing that I wish was in already was I wish we had our sort gates in already, but we're waiting on some stuff for that, and just we don't want to affect cow flow out of our parlor and how it's set up right now. So just figuring out the best way for that.
Another question here is maybe the last one we get to, but what's the next big thing for your farms as it relates to technology? Maybe another way to ask that question is, what do you think are the most promising technologies that are coming out that will be additive to what you're doing? And I wanted to ask Chris, I know would you talk about the sort gates and kind of your pit stop and timing cows, how long they're in the pit stop?
So we have sort gates that we ordered about 6 weeks ago. They should be in hopefully a few more weeks, and that's going to help us out with labor savings. And I'd like to be able to separate cows around the clock with the new sort gate system. Currently, we're separating the cows off our rotary platform with our team that's there from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. And unless a cow has mastitis, those cows get separated from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. Having the sort gate system in the future, I'd like to be able to separate cows off the wheel, but then take it to the next level. So I'm working with Allflex and Valley software to timestamp when the cow gets separated that needs attention, and also I would like to create a system and a tablet over in our maternity area that way the team can scan that cow, and by time stamping the high attention cows, what's our reaction time to getting the cow attention. Because right now, if a cow does show up in the SCR system and she needs attention or her health index is low, she gets separated out the next morning. And if we can get a jump start on that and separate cows out the day before, the night before, have that cow in maternity, so when our fresh cow team comes in, that's the first cow getting checked the next day. For me, being able to take care of the animals in a timely manner, or is there something different that we can do to speed up the process? Also have that compliance list, that checks and balances list that prints off on did the cow get looked at? Because by doing the time stamping, we'll have the health event on there. We'll have the sort gate that separated her out, but then if the cow didn't get looked at or didn't get scanned, she's going to be able to show up on a list for us, and then I can talk to our herd team and say, did the cow fall through the cracks? Did she get the attention she needed, or did something happen that it took too long to get her checked? So being able to use the current systems that we have and the new sort gates that are coming, I'd like to be able to take that to the next level and just try to do a better job on getting the cow's attention a little bit faster. And so it's not developed yet, but that's something that the companies are working on.
Next big thing for the rest of you. Portia, you want to mention that? So, is it sort gates as well? Okay. Bob, comments for you?
Being involved in genetics pretty extensively, it's pretty interesting what we're learning through genomics. And I think one thing that our industry is working to correct is mobility, legs, feet and legs. And some of the data by some of the analysis work is motion, cows that are moving. There's some cooperative efforts with cow manager that we work with that are using detailing motion of the cow and her ability to move. And so I'm kind of excited to get this research to properly breed out some of the problems we have with that. So I thank you.
It took me a minute to think about this, so I'm glad I went last. I didn't speak up. I would say what would be really, really unique, cool, upcoming, if robots had the ability to give a shot. That would really, 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 really limit how much we're in the pen, whether it be, we'd be in there for, scraping manure, buying the cows, and, fetching your, 5%, 2%, of your fetch cows. So those, those heifers that are 2 weeks post-fresh. So that would really limit, how much we're in the pen, because, the goal is to kind of give them as much free time as possible. So that's a thought, and then we start thinking about, okay, what if we don't have a robot give shots? This is all I'm thinking about the last 2 minutes because I'm trying to think of something to say. What if we do pour-on vaccinations, like there is Banamine now? What if we, just new ideas, new thoughts, for the robots, because they're coming into this, box that has the ability to, milk them, feed them, their proportionate amount of grain. Now maybe we can start going that route with vaccinations or your hormone usage if you have to use any. Your multi-min that you give to help try to get these cows to a better start. Things like that. The robot has the ability to sort, so that's nice. But yeah, I would say minimizing the amount we're in the pen is already low right now. But if we could make it even lower, that'd be great. And being a big genetics guy, having a platform to to put these bulls into, like Red Book Plus, and then I really like the way ST website has, having the here are the top 10 daughters, here are the top 10 sons. Maybe dive more into that. Having the ability to look at those things genetic wise, because I'm I really like genetics a lot. That's my favorite part of farming, genomic testing and genetics. So I would say, some kind of cool stuff with that would be awesome.
Mac, I know you have sort gates, right, with the robot, and just kind of explain for this audience. I think we've mentioned sort gates as kind of an additive process for dairy production, but you actually kind of try not to use the sort gate. Explain that experience what you had.
Which is really odd. So we want to try to leave our cows in the comfort of being themselves. So we have a separation pen. It has 10, 15 headlocks in it, has water, has feed in front of it. But it's kind of an odd goal. But when we use it every morning. But we try to get those cows out as soon as possible. Because we, at one time, right when we moved in, we thought this cool thing, we got the separation pen with, 8 stalls in it and these headlocks. Let's just keep our animals, in there for, 2 weeks post-fresh. Let's put hay, grain there. Let's put, just the regular ration. Out of those 10 animals that were in there, 7 of them got DAs. So they all wanted to stand by the exit pen or the exit gate. So they weren't eating enough. So that was a very quick trial that ended very, very fast. So yeah, we have a separation pen, but they're in there and out of there within an hour. When we show up to the farm 4 or 5, 6 o'clock, if she's in there, maybe I'll start riding them at 2 a.m. so they're not sitting in there, since midnight. But we have the ability to give them attention right away and get them out. Whether it be treating for mastitis, whether it be, I guess if you're drying them up, then you wait for the other 2 or 3 to come in that you're drying up, and then you bring them to a new facility or to our dry cow facility. But yeah, we try not to have them in there for any amount of time or any more time than they needed, just because the rumination will drop. Obviously, milk production will go down. They're going to eat a lot less. But they need to go out because they're herd animals. That's what cows are. So they want to be with their friends.
Great. Well, I want to thank those who have submitted questions and also thank our panelists for their participation today. Thank you very much.